Welcome to Salesfusion's webinar entitled Traditional CRM is Failing Your Sales Team. And we want to talk about a number of topics in today's session. Not so much from the perspective of why CRM systems are failing salespeople today, because CRM systems are certainly powerful, extremely valuable, mission-critical applications to organizations, but from an adaptation point of view, have CRM systems properly and in a timely manner adapted to the changing way that people research and buy products and services online. The argument from Salesfusion perspective is no, they have not, and CRM systems as standalone solutions without marketing automation technology are going to leave your sales team somewhat in the dust, and those are the concepts we're going to talk about today. Firstly, we want to get into defining what CRM systems are great at, what CRMs were purposely built for back in the mid-90s when they really kind of came onto the market. I would say four things are the primary functions of a good CRM system. And that is firstly to manage sales activity and sales tasks. And we all know sales has a lot of things that they need to track. Especially in complex sales cycles when we're not talking about straight line product purchases, when we're talking about more solution selling, which is what many of us in the B2B world are engaged in, there's a lot of activities and tasks that have to be managed, tracked, and reported on. There's also the management of a pipeline and a forecast. Any good CRM system is most likely going to be your mission-critical sales pipeline and forecast, which is the revenue prediction engine of a company, which has the attention of everybody from the board of directors to the CEOs to the CFOs down through the VP of sales and sales managers. It's meant to manage sales processes. So from the days of Xerox, when Xerox came out with their selling methodologies, and you have things like spin selling and solution selling and target account selling, there's a myriad of different selling philosophies and selling methodologies. CRM systems were adapted to match, particularly at the opportunity and task level, the management of those types of selling processes so that you can normalize how a sales team sells. CRM systems also do a very good job of managing post-sale client relationships, the service, the support, the client services, client advocacy. CRM systems are, from a technical point of view, a relational database that's built around an account record. So in an account record, you're going to have contacts and leads and tasks and opportunities and support tickets, all organized around a company. It's what we call a one-to-many relationship. And they are fundamentally designed to basically manage the selling process. And I want to really drill that point home. CRM systems are meant to manage the process of selling something and then managing those people post-sale or companies post-sale. That's great. But in 2014 and going into 2015, there's a significant mismatch between that philosophy and the philosophy to how people buy. And what we want to talk about today in quite a bit of detail is this notion of the buyer journey. So let's first define what that is. A buyer journey is a progression of steps a buyer takes from the very early research stage to the evaluation of a product and services through comparison, which ultimately leads to some purchase decision. Now, what's different in 2014 from 2010 or 2005 or even further back is that a significant percentage of a modern buyer journey takes place via the web, and the buyers drive that process by themselves without any interaction whatsoever from your sales team or your company. And we're going to explore these concepts in a little bit of detail. So when we look at a buyer journey, like a winding road, we look at it from the perspective of five pretty well-defined steps. There's an awareness phase, there's an information gathering phase, there's a comparison and engagement, and then a purchase decision. In the past, sales personnel had a very good handle on information gathering, comparison, engagement, and purchase decision. And the way I like to talk about this is that the really good salespeople, the ones who hit their quotas all the time, these were people who, through their own instinct and expertise, were able to guide a prospect from information gathering through to purchase decision. And they knew the information that they needed to provide at the various steps along that process to keep the buyer interested, engaged, build trust, build relationship, which ultimately would lead to that purchase. The modern B2B journey, buyer journey, is a series of research points wherein the buyer consumes digital content, both internally and externally. So we've replaced a lot of those human-to-human interactions between a salesperson and a buyer, especially at the awareness, information, and comparison stages, with digital content. And that digital content is readily available online in what we call the social web. And we'll talk more about some of those concepts as we go through. CRM systems, at least as they exist today, as standalone applications, are designed to manage and assist with the engagement and purchase decision phases of the buyer journey. And as much as 70% of a buyer's journey, though, getting up to that point, may be completed prior to that engagement phase. So unless sales can engage earlier in this journey, they are going to operate at a strategic disadvantage. CRM systems in their current state simply don't help sales personnel prior to the engagement stage. You know, it's like comparison I've given in other discussions on this topic are that CRM is great at managing the known person, the known buyer, the known decision maker, the known opportunity, the known revenue amount, the known close date. CRM is very good at managing the known. Marketing automation systems are very good at managing the unknown, managing that myriad of cloud digital content that exists on the web, and manage those anonymous and known people who may be consuming that content in various mediums, in various networks. There is a bit of a disconnected approach, and the approach is both a technology as well as process approach. Sales, their focus in both the technology and the process is on managing engagement and the purchase decision phases. As we mentioned, we want to very clearly break out right now in today's world what each department has perceived control over. So sales has perceived control over the engagement and the purchase decision. They may think they have control over the comparison stage, but I would argue that the comparison stage is probably over by the time you're getting to engagement. There will still be competitive vendors involved, but there's been a comparison that occurs online that sales may not be aware of, meaning opinions about products and services and companies are oftentimes much more well-formed today by the time a human-to-human interaction takes place. The marketing's focus in technology and in the programs that they run and use is on managing and creating awareness, managing information gathering, and managing the comparison phases. Each is basically managing these phases in a mutually exclusive manner. What I mean by that is marketing may have a technology or a group of technologies that are designed to help with awareness and information gathering and comparison. Let me point a couple of what those could be. There could be social publishing tools for awareness. There could be email marketing tools for awareness. There could be social directories and online directories where we're pushing a lot of digital content like product data sheets and white papers and case studies and videos, and that could all feed the information gathering and comparison. When we do these things in a disconnected fashion, okay, meaning those systems that marketing's using, those 5, 10, 15-point solutions that they're using to get their job done are not connected to the CRM system in any way, it's going to lead to basically a lack of a cohesive funnel, if you will. There's going to be leads that are going to be lost, and I'll specifically point out where they get lost. Bad metrics. Or unpredictable or inconsistent metrics, which will drive C-levels in your organization crazy. And the worst case scenario is it could lead to lost sales. And we'll actually point in a graphic on where those leads leak out and how that impacts lost sales. So we talked briefly about the different systems that marketing use today. If we think back, I mean, for those of you that have been involved with any kind of B2B selling or marketing for any length of time, you'll know that CRM systems really kind of came about by transforming from point solutions to platform. Point solutions being you had contact management, you had sales automation, you had a help desk ticketing system, you may have had a call center application, so you may have had a forecasting and analytics and BI tools. So you had all these different tools which are meant to manage what one system manages today, which is CRM. So all these point solutions kind of came together in a platform. Marketing automation systems are very much following a similar path. Today, in many cases still, marketers are using many different point solutions. They're using social publishing, they're using email, they're using tools for landing form leads and surveys, they're using tools for analytics. There's a pervasive use of Excel from a reporting standpoint and just general organizational standpoint. All of these tools are kind of culminating and coming together into a platform, and this platform is marketing automation. And I would say marketing automation is the CRM system for marketers, and it's the CRM system for the pre and top of the sales funnel. It's a platform that is designed to create, manage, track all lead gen programs, activity. It's also, though, a business process management solution that manages the flow of leads through an organization from the point of capture to the point we score our leads and route those to the appropriate personnel, and then track what happens to those leads as they move through the bottom half of the funnel, the engagement section of the funnel. It's also a very critical analytics engine. More so than ever, and this is a trend within the last 5 to 7 years, B2B companies, particularly even down to mid-size and even SMBs, have really put an emphasis and a focus on spend justification for marketing, really getting into ROI analysis. Part of the reason for that is because we have so many more places that we can spend money today as marketers than we had, just a few short years ago. I mean, years ago, marketers did the trade shows, marketers created the brochures, marketers would, do some direct mail shots. A much limited set of places to spend money, and probably a little bit more easy to track. Today, with the prevalence of online marketing, you have PPC, but in many flavors. You have online advertisements, you have retargeting, you have social advertising as well as publishing. You have, of course, your traditional email marketing, list acquisition, trade shows, online events, webinars, seminars, etc. You have so many more places that we can spend money that it becomes harder and harder to track those costs through to opportunities using Excel spreadsheets. So marketing automation systems are getting much better at helping companies fully automate the lead to revenue management process, not only from managing the leads themselves, but also managing the analytics, being able to see in near real time the impact that my campaigns are having on our pipeline. There is a certain amount of relevance to sales that has come about, and I would say this is a much more recent thing within the last 2 to 3 years. Marketing automation systems really kind of came into play in 2005 timeframe, and between 2005 and 2010, it was basically a marathon of feature development by the vendors. And there's really 5 or 6 really good marketing automation vendors worth their salt today, and I'm happy to report that Salesfusion is definitely one of those vendors. But you had very much a feature race in the early years where everybody's figuring out what are all the things that marketers do and how do we bring them together into one application. And that's how a lot of large platform solutions develop over time. But the focus has now become almost 100% on how we can help sales. The marketing job has always been to help sales, but now we're really in the pipeline. We're really in the funnel. Marketing is responsible for leads much deeper in the funnel than they have been in the past, and we're definitely going to discuss that in more detail. So how does this help sales? How do these marketing automation systems help sales? Well, firstly, they're designed to manage a buyer journey. They capture and they react to both explicit and implicit buyer touchpoints. We'll talk a little bit more about that notion of explicit versus implicit a little bit later on in the presentation. The marketing automation systems identify, they group, they classify buyers based on where they're at in their journey, where they're at in their stage. They help encourage sales and buyer interactions earlier, and they provide context to sales as to why a buyer may be interested or why someone may be interacting. Let me go back to bullet number 3 a second. Misconception of marketing automation systems are that they almost shouldn't be called marketing automation, because the only thing marketing automation systems really automate are some of the nurture style programs and campaigns. We don't take human interaction out. In fact, we encourage human interaction much sooner in the pipeline than if you don't have it. Think of the example that somebody comes around through an ad or whatever reason and winds up on your website and fills out a form on your website to download a piece of content. Rather than just toss every single person who fills out a form on a website over to sales, marketing automation system will watch that person to see where they go in the website. Do they come back repeatedly over the course of time, like over the course of a week? Do they come back and they consume additional content off the website? What we're doing is we're profiling that implicit behavior following the explicit action of filling out a form, and we're trying to predict whether or not that person is ready to engage. We use these lead scoring models in the systems to do that, but then what we do is we're going to notify, assign a task to a salesperson in CRM and encourage them to make an outbound phone call to that person. And we're doing that at scale. We're doing that with hundreds of leads a month, if not thousands of leads a month for some companies. So we have, in a way, two funnels that operate mutually exclusively of each other, but there's overlap. On the marketing automation side, marketing right now very clearly owns the discover and the evaluation stage. People are out looking for things. They're Googling, they're finding solutions, and they're starting to look and evaluate them. How people evaluate online is very different from how they evaluate in a sales meeting. How they're evaluating online is they're reading about you, they're reading about your competitors, they're reading about you in social sites. They're using this whole quote-unquote social web to access the entirety of your digital footprint to do research. Okay, they're in that evaluation stage, tire kicking stage. They may be too soon to be at a full-blown opportunity stage. That usually comes later in engage. So then we get into this whole notion of qualification, right? It used to be that sales exclusively owned qualification. And if you think of what a marketer did 5 or 6 years ago, we would run a campaign, push a white paper, people come in to that piece of gated content via a landing page, and they fill that page out. We get a report at the end of the day telling us we've got 52 people that completed a white paper. That gets loaded into the CRM system. Maybe we're smart enough to attach a lead source to it, and then sales starts making outreach to those 52 leads. We have no idea if they're qualified whatsoever. That's sales' job to figure out if they're qualified or not. The unfortunate part of that is that's manageable when you've got a very low volume of leads. What happens if you have 500, 600, 1,000 leads per month, raw leads? And I might even argue we shouldn't call them leads, we should call them suspects. Then sales starts to fall behind in reaching out to all of those people. They don't get to everybody. They get to a lot of voicemail. And you're going to have leads fall out, and we are going to really paint that picture in just a few moments. Today, marketing has much more stake in the qualification side of it. But that's still a shared thing. We can use lead scoring to reasonably qualify who we think is interested based on data. But then sales has to complete that qualification process and let marketing know these leads were qualified or they were not. And then if they were not, then we have to make some adjustments, either in programs or in the lead scoring model. And then, of course, sales fully owns the engage and the close stage. So what you have is you have a funnel right now that's predominantly managed with 2 or more systems, CRM and marketing automation. If you don't have marketing automation, you probably have a handful of systems in place plus Excel. But you have joint ownership of qualification. And you're not going to be successful at managing the whole funnel when you manage these in systems that do not seamlessly communicate with each other. So when we understand the 2 funnels, let's talk a little bit about discovery and evaluation. What are marketers doing? In the discover phase, they're campaigning. They're pushing outbound communications via email. They're putting content behind landing pages on pay-per-click and other web advertisements. They're running events. They're doing social publishing. They're doing press releases. They're trying to put a lot of bait in the water so that many fish will bite. Come in and start to do further evaluation. Now, the technologies we have available to manage the evaluation side are going to be things like website visitor tracking, lead nurture programs, and personalized content marketing programs. So we have technology in the marketing automation system that does a great job at managing these first 2 stages. At the bottom end, on the CRM side, CRM is going to manage the engagement, the contact management, the activity management, the sales process management. We talked about these in the beginning. Also on the close, the opportunity, the quote management, the funnel management. A lot of CRM systems have add-on solutions that just manage the quoting process. And again, purpose-built for that, does a great job. You would never ask marketing to do these things. So the qualify portion is the part that there's joint ownership of today. And again, this used to not be this way not long ago. Used to be qualified, fell 100% in sales lab. Today, it's 50-50. Sales has to do some what we call a completion of the qualification phase, but marketing starts the qualification phase by evaluating implicit and explicit activity and using lead scoring, lead routing, and nurture programs to figure out, are these people really qualified or are they not? Should sales engage with them or should they not? So understanding the overall flow of leads. I mean, we can really kind of boil down what a lead flow looks like in a very simplistic diagram. And you're going to have inbound leads, which are a direct result of either outbound communications or passive advertisements or things along those lines, or social posts, etc. At the end of the day, regardless of what marketers say or do, what they want is they want lots of people to come into their website and fill out lead capture forms. At the end of the day, every marketer wants that. It's the only reason you have forms sitting on your website. We want to draw people in. We want to create an atmosphere that's pleasing to the person visiting our website, and then we want to encourage them to fill out a form to get information or more information, or to request direct engagement with us, if you will. That data today should all flow through the marketing automation system long before it ever gets to the CRM system. As these marketing automation systems, it's important to note, when I was talking about the structure of a CRM system, one of the things I mentioned was that these CRM systems are one-to-many relationship management tools, one account to many interactions. Marketing automation systems are many-to-many databases, many interactions with many people. So they're better suited to manage at scale that high volume of inbound interactions that are occurring. They're better at managing those initially. Okay. The general thought process is then you capture information from your web, from your forms, bring it into the marketing automation system, run a lead scoring model against it, and the lead scoring model is either going to pass through to CRM, the leads, which would hopefully convert to opportunities in the last circle with the money sign. If they don't make it to opportunity stage, there's one of two things that are going to happen. They'll either fall out through complete disqualification. They say to your salesperson, we are never going to buy your product, don't bother calling us again, for whatever reason, budget or misfit or otherwise. Or they're not ready to buy yet. Now, this is the critical junction. If somebody's not ready to buy today, should we treat them any less than if they were ready to buy? No, we should treat them the same. We should have to treat them even better because this is our future pipeline. The people who aren't ready to buy today are our future pipeline, which is just as important as our current pipeline. So how this has been historically managed is that sales will retain ownership of those leads, and the good salespeople will put a note or a task 5 months out to reach out to this prospect again. The problem is that nothing occurs. There's no interaction between the time sales sets that task and the time that they follow through on that task, assuming they do follow through with it. So there's this huge gap of communication, online, human, or otherwise, where the prospect who is not ready to buy in your time frame is free to go out and wander around the web and find other things, which oftentimes they do. And leads simply leak out the bottom. And I have a better illustration of this, and I will show that. But again, general flow. Leads come in, marketing automation system evaluates those leads based on the lead scoring models, passes to sales. Sales either kicks it out, moves it to opportunity, or remarkets it, flags it as a lead that needs to be nurtured, comes back into the marketing automation system's control, and then at that point marketing owns that lead now and will continue to nurture them along with campaigns and stay relevant and stay in front of them until such time that they've made the decision to come back and engage with you human to human. And this is a better way of looking at that. In fact, this is probably one of the best ways I've ever seen how you describe what marketing automation and CRM together are meant to do. It's a graphic actually that was originally derived from Forrester that talked about what they called the B2B lead development gap. There's this kind of black hole that exists between marketing and sales. Most marketers have been trained to focus on reach. I want to reach as many people with my message as possible for the lowest cost. That's why there's so many metrics, particularly in B2C, cost per thousand, cost per million. That's why Super Bowl ads cost lots and lots of money, because you're trying to reach a lot of people. And historically, marketers thought they were doing a good job if they had a lot of inquiries. If I had 1,500 people fill that form out for that big white paper campaign we ran, I'm a success. And unfortunately, it doesn't mean success. It doesn't mean anything at this point because there's so much content out there and so many people are consuming content so early on. You really have no clue that if somebody downloads a product data sheet or a white paper or case study, you have no clue if that's a lead or not yet. More things have to happen. But what used to happen was, marketing would load those into CRM as a distribution list or what have you. And what happens is sales, really all sales wants to do is talk to people that have the capacity to buy. There's no point in sales talking to anybody else from a business perspective. From a social perspective, it's another thing. But from a business perspective, salespeople should never be talking to people who don't have the capacity to buy. So as they get inundated with unqualified suspects from marketing, typically in the CRM system, they'll cherry pick through those leads and they'll pick the 20 or 30 that they think that they can sell to. And what happens is the remainder of the leads that they either didn't get attention, 2 voicemails and goodbye, they leak out the bottom. Some percentage of those. And while not an exact mathematical calculation, Forrester did have some numbers on this and talked about it. Is it 10% of those leads are, in fact, potential buyers that just fall out the bottom. And that's lost revenue. Those are lost sales. So when we think about this, CRM systems, while very, very, very mature, there's not much new you're doing with a CRM system other than adding things to it, like marketing automation. At the end of the day, they still fundamentally all do the same thing. They organize accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, tasks, call centers, etc. There's still adoption issues. I mean, after all these years, CRM is still a system that requires direct data input from sales in order for it to work and function. If you ask most salespeople what the purpose of a CRM system is, it's so that their managers can report on them, report on their activity, report on the funnel, report on this, report on that. Is there any technology inside of a CRM system that truly helps a salesperson sell? There is. I mean, there's tools in there like scripting tools for sales, for telesales. There's data enrichment tools, which are meant to track changes at a company that may trigger an outreach. So there are things that, quote unquote, help salespeople sell, but they're usually little point, add-on solutions. Sales still views CRM as a system that they need to feed. It does not feed them. And there's a lot of anxiety with salespeople today because they don't feel like they have control. They don't feel like that they control the early part of the sales cycle. Maybe in some very traditional old school segments, there's still that, where just the quality of the relationship between a salesperson and their buyers is enough. But very few industries are like that today. All processes in CRM are organized around managing post-qualification activities. What are the things that happen after the lead was qualified? In fact, we even see many times today that companies don't even use the lead table in these CRM systems anymore. They just focus on contacts and accounts and ops. CRMs will help organize, but they don't address the support, the new lead to sales funnel. That's where they tend to kind of break apart. So how does marketing automation come into play? How does marketing automation help? There are very real quantifiable ways. Firstly, identification of leads. So you do outbound emails, you have lead capture pages. So you're pushing out to people you have, leads, maybe lists you purchased, or people you picked up at trade shows. You have lead capture pages on your site. In marketing automation systems, both the email and the lead capture, the landing pages, have a script on it. And that script places a first-party persistent cookie on the machine of the person who responded. And this persistent cookie is what tracks downstream website visits. Those website visits that have absolutely positively nothing to do with the original reason they hit the site. Maybe they hit the site because you sent out an e-blast with a newsletter. But then 2 days later, independent of that email, somebody comes in and they start poking around your resource center and downloading case studies and things like that, things that are not behind a landing page. Those are interactions that you would never know about, and they happen to be the most important interactions that you need to know about. So the marketing automation systems identify those people, and they alert sales when leads and prospects whom they are assigned are having these quote-unquote meaningful touch points. And this encourages sales to connect with them at the moment that they're ready to buy or at the moment they're ready to engage. So this part alone is having dramatically positive effects on organizations, website visitor tracking. Next will be classification. So we think back to that Forrester funnel that I showed you, that graphic that was based on, and the leads all leaking out the bottom. That's fixable 100%, not partially, 100% through lead scoring and lead management. It makes that problem go completely away. And leads basically get classified into these groups. They're based on both demographic information as well as activity, implicit and explicit activity. The leads are ultimately categorized into buckets, which in turn are going to trigger alerts, nurturing, lead routing, things like that. The leads are assigned to sales in the CRM system, and then marketing will ensure timely assignment to the right people, getting the right leads in front of the right sales personnel at the right time, and the right time is earlier than the engagement phase. Lead nurturing. Not all of these leads, no matter how good they are ready to buy today, tomorrow, this week, this month. There's some that are simply not going to be ready for sales engagement. The automation and marketing automation is oftentimes the automated programs. That's where the term automation and marketing automation came from. So I'll walk you through the most simple scenario. A marketing automation system can have a pre-built 6-week-long, once-a-week email touchpoint campaign, preloaded with content, stuff that's not sitting on their website, you know, the good stuff, the behind-the-scenes stuff. And it's a trigger-based program, meaning a salesperson's calling, leaving a message 10 times to this prospect. On the surface, the prospect looks great. It fits our vertical. It fits our industry size. It fits our geography. I know I could sell to them if I just had a chance, but they're not responding to me. So rather than just completely walk away from that lead, we may enroll them in a nurture program where we're touching them on some regular interval. Now, we close the loop because if there's an action at any stage in that campaign, we fire the alerts back to the sales rep. So-and-so's active again. So-and-so's active again. And then it triggers the salesperson to start doing telephone outreach at the right time when the person's interest level is highest and when they're interacting with us. So lead nurturing, fully automated. It takes the guesswork out of how to manage these early stage leads. Because how we've managed them in the past has been completely subjective, rep by rep by rep. And we just can't function like that. Accountability. We all know the age-old battle between marketing and sales. Marketing says, we give you great leads, you don't follow up. Sales says, you don't give me enough leads, or the leads you send me are junk, right? So that's existed, and it still exists in a lot of companies. Marketing automation makes that go away. Not a little bit, all the way. It makes both marketing and sales fully accountable for leads, both sides of the fence. It allows us to track leads as they move through the funnel right to the opportunity stage. It allows marketing to look at very meaningful metrics like if I have X number of pre-qualified leads that I pass the CRM, X percentage of those convert to contacts and accounts, and of those, X percentage converts to ops, and of those, X percentage close for revenue. Marketing will have very hard metrics to work from. So they can actually back their way into figuring out how many pre-qualified leads, or sometimes we call them SQL, sales qualified leads, how many sales qualified leads we need to deliver to the sales team in order for sales to hit the number. And what a revolutionary concept. You've got marketing sitting there with a calculator figuring out exactly the number that we need to deliver based on the metrics that we have in both systems. When you can get to that point, you're working purely off math. There's no guesswork involved in it anymore, and that's a beautiful place to get to. It takes time, though. It takes historical data in both systems to kind of cook for a little while, and it takes discipline in adhering to some of the lead management processes that you put in place. We could track leads through the opportunities. As I said, we also track the spend of marketing related to the amount of qualified leads, ops, and revenue. So the most important thing, marketing automation systems can tell marketers where not to spend. They enable marketing and sales to basically share full accountability for the full funnel, not just parts of it. In that couple of slides back, when we kind of broke out the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel, when there's dedicated ownership of both of those and no joint ownership of the qualification in a way that we can see all the data, the blame game comes into play. You could blame people because you can't be proven otherwise. Once you have systems like this in place, marketing automation connected into sales, the blame game goes away because the data doesn't lie. So that's going to bring us up to right around the 40-minute mark, which is good. That's about where we wanted to stop. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.